Welcome to Reread, where I'm talking about Darksaber once again, and hopefully this time my kids won't be screaming their heads off in the back. A lot of people who don't like Kevin J. Anderson state that they do love Darksaber, and so a lot of people think that it's his best one. I tend to agree it may be, even though there are some missed opportunities I found during this reread. First off, Han and Luke go to Tatooine to go to Jabba the Hutt's palace. They haven't been there in forever. And they hear from a B'mor monk that Hutts have been kind of snooping around the palace again because they're looking to see if Jabba had codes to get into Imperial databanks, and maybe did he pull some super weapon blueprints from it. And Han gives the best comment. He goes, "What? Not another super weapon?" See, Kevin J. Anderson can make fun of himself. But I digress. This takes place, they say, less than a year after the Jedi Academy trilogy. And I'm like, wow, okay, really? Because Dorsk 81 and Kip Doran are still students, and I get that, but it's been less than a year, and they're already graduating in a way. Now, here's the missed opportunity. We don't get to see Dorsk 81 and Kip's story till like 100, 150 pages later, where they go to Dorsk 81's planet, meets Dorsk 82, the whole, clone planet thing, and then Dorsk 81 joins Kip to find what the Empire's been up to since this time. And knowing who's going to be sacrificed in this book, I wish they would have forged a better relationship between, or shown us more of Dorsk 81 and Kip. Dorsk 81 talking about how he's grown, maybe, beyond his clone state. They do that a little bit. Kevin J. Anderson does a little bit, but if you're going to sacrifice this character at the end of the book, make us really care about him. And there's a little bit of dialogue with him and Kip in one chapter, but it really didn't surmount to us really caring that he was going to die at the end of it. Of course, we didn't know, but you kill off a character, you want to make it big and epic. You want the fans care about him. And just announcing they're off together to fight evil in the galaxy, and then they don't come back in 150 pages later, we lose that attachment. Now, I will say this, there are a lot of excellent flashbacks in this. The Limelisk, I don't know how to pronounce his name, I don't care either. The scientist who helped create the Death Star, as we're told, has a lot of flashbacks where he's talking to the Emperor when he fails the Emperor for the first time, when the first Death Star exploded and the Emperor kills him. In fact, he reimagines or remembers, his clone does, a lot of ways his former self died. He has a memory with him and Darth Vader, or trying to get the first Death Star constructed, or with Grand Moff Tarkin, where Admiral Akbar, wasn't Admiral back then, was Tarkin's servant. And it actually shows the whole scene where Akbar breaks away, joins the rebellion, tries to set Tarkin up to get captured, but Tarkin avoids it. And Tarkin doesn't understand. He didn't think Akbar set it up, because Akbar is just like a stupid servant who doesn't really listen to him. Like, he discusses military strategy around Akbar. He thinks he's just mainly a pet. The Emperor's bias and everything, which there's some really great stuff in there, and I do enjoy each one of these flashbacks. Dala is back, and she is badder than ever here. She doesn't like all the infighting between all the Imperial warlords. She thinks they should be combining their forces because they've still got a good army and take it to the rebellion. Of course, when she outthinks the newest warlord she's working for to kind of strand them both in, the opposing admiral or vice admiral on the other who's commanding the army is Pellaeon. And Pellaeon really likes Dala's vision. He wants that. In fact, when he and Dala team up, she calls all the warlords in. This is just a great move by Dala, and basically just kills them all. She tries to get someone to be the leader. She does not want to be the leader. She tries to get someone to be the leader. When the infighting goes for like 3 hours, I think, she finally just hits a bomb and poison gas. And she and Pellaeon put on masks and watch them all die. And she goes, okay, well, I guess I'm going to run it for now, until we find someone to, who can take over the Empire. But she just wants to consolidate and take it to the rebels. Now, Pellaeon is just so encouraged. In fact, one of the lines here from Kevin J. Anderson, not since Thrawn has he felt such confidence. Well, with Thrawn, you probably felt even more confidence. But Pellaeon just hates all the infighting. He hates what the Empire has become. He likes this new, strong, unified front the Empire is going through, and that Dala kind of, put her fist around it and bound them together like that in such a way. I can see where he would look up to her and where that would give her confidence. Now, of course, she's going to screw things up so bad that she's going to hand the reins over to Pelion at the end of the book, but that's for later. What's going on with Luke and Callista? Well, Callista is upset because she does not have the Force. She can't access the Force. Luke is going to take her to all the places that meant the most to him when he was learning the Force, which means we're going to go back to every main planet that he ever visited in the movies. But they find out later on that Callista can access the dark side. Ooh, so back to my first question about in the last video, where if the Emperor had taken over Anakin, would he have lost his Force ability? We don't know if Callista just over time regained her the access to the dark side, or if she's always had access and she never knew that before. But I think with all the frustration when she first found out she couldn't touch the Force, I think she would be mad. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate. So I think she would have found out she could tap the dark side now. So I think it was a delayed response to where, just now she's finally coming around to get the dark side. And of course, none of this is explained. It doesn't have to be explained. And it looks like, well, if you touch the dark side, eventually you'll open up to the light. And that makes sense too. Now, Callista, and this is kind of crazy, she doesn't want to be with Luke because she wants to be a Jedi. She needs to be a Jedi because she tells Luke that she wants to keep his lineage pure, meaning if you match a Jedi with a Jedi, it'll be a pure Jedi instead of a Jedi with a non-Force user. And I'm like, ooh, do you know who his sister married? And it sounds like you're looking for this super race. I don't know. Someone could have touched on that and gone the whole way on that comment. Anyway, Mara and Callista meet. They eat together. They have a little chat. Kevin J. Anderson's letting you know that it's cool. Mara doesn't like him, but Mara is a little bit in love with him, and Callista can see that at the table, which I guess they were kind of opening up at this point saying, okay, fans aren't really going to take to Callista, but we know Mara kind of likes him, so we'll eventually get them together. Although the rumors persist that she is still dating Lando, that she's kind of seeing him. She's like, well, we're just partners. Yeah, whatever. We all know what partners with Lando means. Wait, were Han and Lando partners? One of the places Luke takes her is to this place where I guess they view a comet or whatever, and there's a lot of water there. She's from a water world. He's from a desert world. I like this. Opposites attract. I like that she couldn't use the Force either. I see nothing wrong with Callista, but I know a lot of people are just hankering for Mara Jade. But in this one, and I knew it was in the book, I couldn't figure out where until I reread it, but he talks about his home world to Callista and says about Tatooine, I wonder if Fixer and Cammy are still there, because I remember that clearly. And I thought it was at the beginning of the book when he was on Tatooine wondering about Cameron and Fixie. In fact, a long time ago when I first reviewed this on my channel, I went back and read the first couple of chapters just to see if I could find that reference, but I couldn't find it. I was like, man, I know it's in here somewhere. Yeah, it's in the middle of the book when he's talking to Callista. They go later on to Hoth, where there's a great scene. It's really good. It's like Aliens. The Wampas are invading the base. The hunters have now become the prey. People who came to do some big game hunting on Hoth, because Wampa pelts are worth a lot. Now they're kind of getting slaughtered, here and there. And as they lock the doors, they hear scratching sounds. And of course, it's coming through the ice. Look out, they're tunneling through the ice like they did in the deleted scenes from Empire Strikes Back. So there's just awesome scenes where Wampas are just destroying people, or just, blood splattering everywhere. Luke and Callista are trying their best to protect everyone with their lightsabers and trying to get a retreat. Of course, the Wampa leading them has one arm. The other one's been kind of cauterized, sawed off. Yeah, it was the one Luke got. I don't mind any of this. In fact, that whole scene is awesome. I think everyone agrees with me. Now, the Hutt in question here is, of course, Durga the Hutt. Chronologically, we've seen him before. This is the first time publication-wise we'd seen him. And he goes to Coruscant to pretend to give an olive branch to, the Hutts hate Han Solo for killing a Jabba. But he's saying, you know what, we'll forget all that. I want to make an alliance. I want to be an honest, Hutt with the New Republic. Now, Han and Leia aren't buying it at all, but they host him anyway. He's got all these little creatures, like little rat creatures, alien creatures around him. He calls them his pets. And they all scatter and get away because they're frightened by something. This is all planned by Durga, because Durga acts like he has them all, but secretly some escaped down into the mainframe computer system of the New Republic, and I guess they're slicers too, and they stole plans of the original Death Star. And 3PO later on discovers that when he finds one of the rat creatures. He goes, wait a minute, I thought Durga said he had them all. The dialogue between Han and 3PO is pretty good. I can't remember exactly what the line was, but he gives some snarky remark to 3PO. 3PO thinks, oh, okay. And Leia goes, he's not serious, 3PO. And she kind of looks at Han like, stop that. Stop. He doesn't get sarcasm. Stop it. And I just really loved that. I really loved it a lot. But Durga is trying to get the Death Star plans, but he knows he can't build that much with it. He has the captured scientist. The scientist goes, well, you know, all you need is a super laser. Yeah, like the Galaxy gun, even though I don't think that comic book had come out yet, so they couldn't mention it. They do mention a lot of EU, and I should mention this. In Shaun the Jedi, it wasn't more than mentions. They just kept going. Barbara Hamlin did a great job sewing in all the continuity, and this is something I didn't give Bantam credit for. I thought they just said, hey, remember when Thrawn came, and they left it at that. No, Barbara Hamlin incorporated a lot of EU in her book, as does Kevin J. Anderson. Of course, he includes some of the comic books too. A little shout out to Eula Keldroma, as you know, Tony tells Callista that he also lost his power but never regained it. You know, which I thought was really neat too. But anyway, after they find out that Durga has stolen some plans, they don't know he's using a stripped down version of the Death Star. What they decide to do is Durga gave them an off comment that they should come visit him on Nahata sometime. He didn't mean it, and they were never going to go, but she was like, let's go and freak him out, because let him know that we know something's up. Well, while they do this, they also bring their New Republic fleet over there, so that Wedge and Admiral Akbar can do some war games. Just harmless little war games. We practice them all over the galaxy. They are very protective of me. They thought they'd come and just practice up in the sky, pay of no heed. And she does that to rattle Durga. But Durga's smart. And I'd forgotten about this because it doesn't rattle him at all. He knows the game they're playing. But he also knows they're fishing for information. They don't have everything. He's a little unsure. But Crix Maydeen, of course, goes undercover. He gets dropped off. He puts a tracer on Durga. He's the one, and there's, of course, great, I guess, well, no, I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about the little war game. Admiral Akbar versus General Wedge Antilles. And it is fantastic because Akbar looks at the formation and goes, and shakes his head. He said, tell the princess we'll be done in the next few minutes. You know, because he can easily tell by the formation what Wedge is going to do and how the battle's going to go down and how Akbar is going to defeat him. He went, and because he's a military genius. And then it flips to Wedge, and he goes, he bought it. Okay, move all the fleets. It was all a fake. It was all a fake. And he takes Admiral Akbar out, and Admiral Akbar just kind of bows to Wedge like, should have known better. It's a great scene. Just like I said, a lot of good moments you can breathe. It's not all, you're not all nervous about what's going to happen next. It's not some big baddie or whatnot. It's just, you know, Wedge and Akbar playing war games. And that's, I just love that. Anyway, Crix Maydeen, of course, follows the Durga out to the Darksaber project, which is in the Hoth asteroid belt. And so he sends out a receiver for Wedge and everyone to come and take out the Darksaber. Of course, he and his team are going to get kidnapped, all of them killed except for Crix Maydeen. He's going to face Durga the whole time. And they end this on a couple of chapters. Crix Maydeen is like, they'll be here any minute. And Crix Maydeen is looking at the spaceport. He went, they'll be here. I just got to keep stalling. And so when Durga points a gun at him and says, any last words, Crix Maydeen sees the ships, the Republic ships coming out of hyperspace. And he says, nothing from me, or nothing to you, or whatever. And you think Durga's going to, I mean, it's perfectly set up to be written that Durga looks at the window and goes, roar, roars, and everyone scatters to their battle stations. But instead, Durga doesn't care what's going on outside. He shoots and kills Crix. And it's the most amazing thing because the whole time you're reading this, you think, yeah, because it shows Wedge going, top speed, we got to get there, we got to take on this super weapon. And you're thinking, okay, they're gonna come to the rescue because no one dies. A movie character had never died before, even a small character. Kevin J. Anderson got permission to do this from Lucasfilm. He told me this story, and it was a minor character, and they said okay. And he was kind of worried, and fans were upset because the movie characters at the time were untouchable. Even the smallest character would have been untouchable to kill. But he got permission for Crix Maydeen, and the whole time you think Crix Maydeen is going to make it out. And he doesn't. Oh man, and it kills Wedge that, you know, he finds out that Crix died, And it's just very, he and Akbar are both very saddened by this loss. So it's done really well. It's a death scene done well, and I really appreciated that. Now, speaking of Durga, there's another great scene where some weak-ray gives him some bad news. The Darksaber does not work, and I love this. We have the super weapon, and it doesn't really work. And the scientist probably knew that. He knew it because he knew, this may or may not work. I need to get off the ship quick because things may go south quick. And of course, the Darksaber ends up destroying itself. But Durga is so mad when the weak-ray gives him that information, he presses a button. But instead of the weak-ray dying, another weak-ray dies. Like he was standing somewhere else, and he gets electrocuted. He's like, Durga goes, oh, sorry, wrong button. And the weak-ray's charred remains don't respond. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. That's Kevin J. Anderson thinking outside the box. We talk about Aaron Alston being quirky and everything. I'm going to add Kevin J. Anderson to that list. He is very funny. I laughed several times during this book. And just little things like that I thought were good too. Now, I do have a question about Dorsk 81's planet Comb or whatever. They've been cloning for 80 generations. But yet cloning is, I mean, it's a known technology, but why did they need to go to, I mean, it doesn't match up well with the prequels. Obviously, they didn't know about the prequels back then, the Clone Wars. So I have a question about that, how they grow their clones, how was it different? I wish somehow the expanded universe would have kind of smoothed over that history. I'm sure there's an excuse. I'm just not smart enough to see it. Of course, the Jedi Temple is attacked. This is where Kip and Dorsk 81 return because they found out ahead of time and escaped Admiral Dalla's fleet just in time to warn the Jedi. And there's some cool scenes. I can't think of her name. The Dothamor Witch and Cam Sasalier are with the Force grabbing big boulders and chunking them at TIE fighters and TIE bombers and just blowing them up. And I still remember the scene to this day. Streen takes both of his hands and controls the winds and brings 3 TIE fighters and twists and grabs his hand like this, and all the TIE fighters like zip in like it's a whirlpool in the air, zip in and smash into each other. I was like, wow, that's so cool! And it's still cool. There's a lot of good fighting. The ground troops are being destroyed. Cam is basically invisible. He's next to a tree, but he's doing a mind trick. They walk right past him, can't see him, and he kills them. You know, he's like, could do this all day, you know. As they keep coming in, R2 is helping out in the battle. He's opening up one of the temple gates, and when I think ATST kind of walks into the temple, right as he gets to the gate, he slams down the gate on top of it and then opens it back up for the next opponent there. So everyone's joining in the battle. It does feel like the Battle of Endor in a way. But at the end, of course, they know they can't get rid of all those Star Destroyers, Pelion's army, so Dorsk has everyone channel the Force them. Of course, he gets burned alive through the Force using so much Force power and blows all the Star Destroyers halfway across the sector. You know, Pelion doesn't even know what happened. His hyperdrive's out there limping to get back, but they're not going to get there for a couple of days at least. And so he knows he's kind of out of the battle permanently. Again, Dorsk 81's sacrifice, wish we would have had more of a connection between him and Kip. It just didn't happen. So I kind of felt like that was a little wasted moment there. Now, of course, Admiral Dalla has come. She's got a super Star Destroyer. She starts raining fire down on top of him. She's setting the Yavin 4 forest ablaze there. And Callista, who feels so helpless, takes over a TIE fighter, escapes, tricks the super Star Destroyer letting her in, sets up and goes into a bay with a bunch of other TIE bombers and Smiles, rigs them all to explode, and now the Night Hammer, which was newly christened to be with a K, Night Hammer, by Dalla, is now burning and going down. This woman destroyed a super Star Destroyer. She got her 3 Star Destroyers ruined. Now she has a super Star Destroyer. Like I said, she comes back bigger and better than ever and fails more epically. I love that. Callista tries to stop her, but without the Force, Callista is not as strong as she normally would be. So Dalla easily outmaneuvers her, knocks her out, and then runs because she's got to get off the ship. She doesn't kill her because she got to get off the ship. And you think Callista's dead too, but at the end, Luke gets a message from Callista going, hey, I just need some time to myself. I love you, Luke. And Luke's like, I love you too. I don't know. I thought it was kind of sweet. Oh, one other thing I like is that E-Wings were mentioned. Now that's because Kevin J. Anderson really wanted to incorporate the comic books. And that's what bothered me. E-Wings were such a big deal in Dark Empire. no one else talks about them. No one else will mention E-Wings. They talk about X-Wings, A-Wings, B-Wings. This is, in Starfire's Adumar. I doubt. I don't think they've mentioned an E-Wing again. And only someone like Kevin J. Anderson would do that. And very rarely, maybe one or other two people mention E-Wings. But come on, mention the comic books. No one tied the comic books more to the novels at the time than Kevin J. Anderson. But overall, still an excellent book. I love Darksaber. Good stuff. All right, folks, that's it for now. See you next time.